So I've talked about what we've been doing to improve darcs performance and darcs reliability, and now I've been looking a little bit more into the question of usability. Um, and where I last left off was this darcs rebase command that we want to introduce. So before I get into rebase and really what it's for and why you don't want to use it, I want to talk about why you typically don't need rebase in darcs, right? The reason is that darcs has this very powerful theory of patches, which allows you to take the view that your repository, your project that you're working on, is basically just a set of patches, and any sort of collaborators repositories can share these patches with you. You basically, what you're doing when you're working for the people is you're just throwing patches around, right, and building up your individual sets of patches. Another thing that this darcs theory patches will do is that it will protect sort of dependencies on patches. In that, so for example, if you have one patch that creates a directory, and then you have another patch that adds things inside that directory, right? The darcs sort of theory of patches way of doing things is that it won't let you take the patch that adds stuff to the directory without also taking the patch that creates the directory in the first place, right? Because that just wouldn't make sense. It's undefined. Similarly, it won't allow you to undo the creation of the directory without also undoing the addition of stuff inside that directory. So in the sort of darcs way of doing things, basically a lot of things which would be sort of powerful black magic operations in other revision control systems are just basically a question of using the interactive user interface. Should I pull this patch? Yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. Shall I obliterate this patch? Yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. Shall I roll back this patch? Yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. It's the same. It's always the same idea throughout the place. In systems like Git Mercurial, what you have is you have a way to do sort of the same thing, but you have to use a special command for this, which doesn't work the same way. What it does basically is it takes your repository state, and it takes the sort of the set of commits, the sequence of commits that you like to bring over, right, and it tries to sort of apply them manually by using different patch. And this mostly works, and this is quite good. And it's nice that these commands have these, but it doesn't have quite the same properties as sort of like the darcs theory of patches approaches does, where for example, if you do this in darcs, when you sort of interactively send pick out patches from one repository to another, as far as darcs is concerned, if darcs allows you to do this, they are the same exact patch. Right, you don't have to worry about the fact, oh no, this is a rebase thing or whatever. It's really just the same patch. It's just that, okay, we have patches in different orders, but that's okay. If darcs allows it, then it's equivalent, right? On the other hand, the darcs way of doing things, just relying on this sort of theory of patches, isn't enough. There's two cases where it's insufficient. One of which, when you do actually want to break a dependency, and the other of which being when you have sort of conflicts to deal with. So in the case of dependencies, a frequent use case is when you have made a series of changes, right, and you sort of start recording them as patches. But after the fact, you realize that actually what you really like to do is to modify one of the is to amend one of the patches which is further down the history, right, from the top. Normally, this is something that darcs will let you do, right, provided there's no dependency, no syntactic dependency there's no sort of textual dependency between the patches. Darcs will be quite happy to sort of let you cherry pick one of the bottom patches and amend it and turn it into something else. But if there's a dependency, then that's a big pain. You have to sort of unrecord one of the existing patches that depends on it, and then sort of do the amend there, and then re-record the new patch. Having a darcs rebase command will allow you to do this operation which we call deep amend record in a much friendlier way. The other thing that rebase will allow us to handle in a nicer way is conflicts. So one simple case is that because darcs tries to take the view that whenever you have the same patches in two repositories, these are exactly the same patches, right? So it has to do a lot of work to sort of preserve the fact that there are conflicts, that these patches are conflicts in certain contexts, but in other contexts that they aren't. Now, if you're just sending, if you're some guy developing some changes and you want to send them upstream to some maintainer, you probably don't want the maintainer to see these kinds of conflicts, right? You really want to, you don't care if it's sort of clean on a theoretical level, right? What you want to do is you want to get rid of the conflicts. And so what the rebase command will allow you to do is take your changes and sort of forcibly move them over into the maintainer's context, such that that what the maintainer sees is a nice clean patch without any sort of conflicts. And so basically, it's sort of temporarily foregoing the theory of patches, so that for various practical reasons. And another more important case for us where having a rebase command is useful is when you have one of these really complicated nested conflicting situations that the current theories of patches don't allow us to deal well to cope well with. Right now, darcs is just not suited for doing long-term branches of work that don't get merged into the mainline very frequently, because whenever we have nested conflict situations, you either run into this sort of exponential merge issue, or even worse, you run into one of the sort of current bugs in the darcs patch theory. So for the second case, the rebase command will allow us to buy a lot of time to say, well, okay, we don't need to have a perfect patch theory right now. We just need to have sort of like a thing that works basically, right? But when it comes to one of these conflicting cases that's really hard to deal with, we will use this rebase command to, well, we'll sacrifice a little bit of history, but we'll also get these nice clean patches that sort of apply cleanly on top that will allow us to recover our work and move on, right? So this is a really important stopgap measure, aside from being a useful feature in itself. One other nice thing I'll say about rebase is that the darcs implementation of rebase is going to work very hard to be a darcs style command. It's we're going to make it so that you don't have to learn a lot of complicated things. You don't need to read a manual to do this. Well, okay, maybe you will need to read a manual to do this, but it'll try to be sort of interactive and reversible in a way where you can just say, okay, I'm going to darcs rebase pull a bunch of patches, and you'll just say, okay, do you want to rebase pull this patch? How about this one? How about this one? And then you'll tell you what to do next, right? So we hope that you will like this rebase operation that we're currently working on. There's actually a branch of darcs out there that with this rebase feature that you can play with now, and I will link to this in the details of this talk. So that's basically it for the usability work that we're currently working on. Now we can move on to the usability work for the future. So basically, there's two things we need to look at. First of which is a graphical user interface. Darcs, there aren't really many very solid graphical user interfaces for darcs, and this is mostly our fault in the sense that we haven't really given people a nice clean API they can play with. And so GUI authors are very often just forced to run darcs commands by hand, right? And that isn't always so nice. So this is on having graphical interface would be very important, but for us we have to sort of postpone this in long-term agenda because we just basically have a lot of things that we need to work on, and also having graphical interface will be a lot easier to do once we've done a lot of the work to sort of solidify the darcs API, and make it just make it very easy to write these sort of things. But yes, it's definitely on the agenda, and we really do want to see this happen. What's really more of a pressing concern to us is the handling of conflicts in the darcs user interface. So I've talked a lot about how darcs is a very friendly and very easy to use revision control system because of this very simple mental model where a repository is just a set of patches. But one of the places where the ease of use for darcs just completely falls apart is when you have conflicts. So this is what I would like to talk a bit more about in the next segment of this talk. See you there.